If you've ever spotted leaves on your plant and your first thought to yourself was, oh no, I'm a bad plant parent, well, deep breath, because honestly, you are not. Yellowing is actually a super common thing for all plants. But here's the tricky bit. Yellow leaves aren't actually the problem, they're the result of a problem. It's basically your plant just saying to you, I can't get what I need, so I'm going to let go of this leaf. So in this video today, I'm going to talk through what the most common causes are of yellow leaves, how to figure out which one you're dealing with, and what to do next. So let's go in order of most likely to least likely to cause the yellow leaves. And if you're going to double check why your plant is giving you a yellow leaf, go in order of what I'm about to talk through. So, okay, first question is it just one yellow leaf, like one sad little guy at the very bottom of your plant? Maybe it's quite a small leaf, maybe it's a really old early leaf. If yes, and it's only one, congratulations, honestly, that might not even be a problem for your plant. Your plant just might be like Marie Kondoing its life and sorting things out and letting go of that leaf because it no longer sparks that plant joy. What I mean by that is leaves age, plants let them go, especially with older leaves right at the base. Older yellow leaves just drop off naturally, especially if your plant is growing some new ones. Maybe that plant has a lot of energy but just doesn't have quite enough to keep the old ones and wants to let them go. If everything else looks good with your plant and your plant's growing new leaves, then that one yellow leaf is totally normal. Don't stress. You can either pull it off if you want to or just let it drop off naturally. It will drop off very easily when it's ready to go. Either way, no stress. Actually, quick question. How many yellow leaves are you dealing with right now? 1, 5, half the plant? I have one like that right now. That's why I say that. Tell me in the comments below, because honestly, you are not alone. Everyone has to go through yellow leaves on your plant. Sometimes it's a problem, and sometimes, as I just said, it's not. Now, if it's more than one leaf, or if it's a couple of leaves here and there, or if those leaves are dropping in fast succession one after the other over a few days or a few weeks, then maybe there's a few more reasons why that could be happening. So let's talk about watering. And look, I know we all wish there was like a perfect watering schedule, like just water every Sunday and you're good forever, but it doesn't work like that. If you've seen a few of my videos before, I have talked about how you just need to relate to your plant's needs because they change based on the season, based on your home, based on the potting mix, based on everything that plant is dealing with. Once I realized that, I actually stopped myself overwatering because it's not really about how often you water, it's about how long the soil takes to dry out between waterings. Because when the roots stay too wet for too long, they can't breathe. And when that happens, they stop taking in water. They're kind of like drowning almost. So to tell the difference on what's going on between underwatering and overwatering, usually overwatered plants have very soft yellow leaves. They might feel a bit droopy. They just don't feel like they've got any life left in them. The soil might even smell a little bit weird, and that soil is rather damp and musty like for a really long time. It's just a bit unpleasant. It doesn't feel right. That soil and the plant just looks really sad. However, if your plant is underwatered, your leaves will usually go yellow and they will droop, but they will be crispy on the edges and they'll be quite dry. You'll be able to tell the difference. One is kind of sloshy overwatered and one is kind of dry, even though they're both droopy leaves. You'll see a difference here. I'll put two plants up. One is very much overwatered and one is very much underwatered, which is one of my calatheas. When it comes to underwatering, the whole pot itself might be dry and the soil might even be pulling away from the pot. That's underwatering to the point of where the soil is hydrophobic and can't take in water, so watch for that one too. If you're not sure which one, there's great news because there is a very easy way to test. Just grab a water meter. You don't have to guess. It's actually the best thing I've ever added in my plant kit. I swear by it all the time. It's there to figure out if you have overwatered or how often you need to water your plant. It's the one tool for one purpose, and that is to check when you need to water next. Also, don't forget to make sure your pot has drainage. If you're brand new to plants, make sure that water can take over the whole pot but then drown out. Don't let that plant sit in water. Always, 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 that plant has to make sure it's drained and there's oxygen getting to those roots. Even if it's a cute little ceramic pot, get an inner pot and make sure that drains. Just make sure you somehow get oxygen to those roots. And if it's in soil, make sure it's a light, airy soil and airflow is going through that chunky mix, not just soggy, hard, compacted soil. So yeah, it's not about sticking to a schedule. It's about paying attention to how your soil behaves in your home. Now, if you'd like more details about how not to overwater, I've got a full video explaining this in a lot more detail. So I'm going to leave the card up here. I'll also obviously leave it in the description below. I really encourage you to go have a look at that one if you're still not sure about overwatering versus underwatering and how to deal with it. Okay. If your watering is all good, but you've still got yellow leaves, the next thing to check is lighting, because this one confuses people all the time. We know plants need light to survive, right? But what we don't always realize is how different the light is in our homes from what that plant is used to in the wild, even if it's used to a very shady environment. Most indoor plants are tropical. The ones around me pretty much are tropical, and they're used to growing under canopies, under big tree canopies. When they're outside under big, shade, they get bright but filtered light, not direct sun. But it's still a very, very bright area because there is sunlight shining off of other plants and trees and stems, etc. And when they don't get what they need, the leaves let you know. So here's the thing you need to remember. Light is how your plant makes its food. It's not the fertilizer, it's through the light, it's through photosynthesis. So if your plant isn't getting enough light, it can't fuel itself properly. It doesn't create enough energy. And the first sign is often, you guessed it, a yellow leaf. But it looks different depending on what's wrong. You can have too much light, you can have too little light. If it's too little light, you'll definitely see the lower leaves drop off. It won't just be one, it'll be 2 or 3, because what that plant is trying to do is create enough energy to look after the new growth. That's what it will prioritize, and it'll probably lose all of the leaves, or start to lose all of the leaves from bottom up. The whole plant will just look a bit stretched out, as in, between leaf growth and leaf growth, that stem is just really stretched because it may be trying to go out and find lighting somewhere. It's, what's it called? It's called leggy growth. It's just stretching out a bit because it's trying to find a new light source or a stronger light source. It's not necessarily dying. It's just trying to conserve energy for that new growth, and it's getting rid of all the old leaves and yellowing the leaves down the bottom. On the opposite side, if it is too much light, this one is much more dramatic. You might see bright yellow patches or bleach spots which will actually turn brown over time. It won't happen straight away if that leaf is burnt or scorched. It will happen maybe in 3 or 4 days, and you'll think to yourself, I'm not quite sure, maybe even a little bit longer. That leaf will be light and bright, some of it will be brown, most of it will be yellow, and it'll just happen without you even realizing it, to be honest. And it can happen slow, but it can also happen fast if it's right near a window and it gets hot direct sun and you just burn the crap out of it, especially in summer. Am I allowed to say crap on TV? I don't know. Let me know if I need to bleep it. So what do you do? So first, think about where your plant is sitting. Then notice which leaves are yellowing. Is it the top leaves that are getting all the sun, or is it the bottom leaves, or is the whole plant going from bottom to top? Try rotating the plant regularly so all sides get light if you're willing to do that. If your home's on the darker side, consider a grow light. I use them a lot, honestly. They're lifesavers behind me. This house is actually quite dark, and even the windows don't let enough light because there's too many trees blocking the light coming from outside in. So sometimes this house is really, really dark. So I really need quite a few grow lights to supplement the lighting in this house, which is why you see these plants facing this way as opposed to facing the window, because that window right behind me here just doesn't give me enough light at all. So sometimes, even though you think you're getting light from a window, it may not be enough, and your plants will tell you by getting yellow leaves. Okay. Let's go on to the next section. So you've checked the watering, you've checked the lighting, that all seems okay. What could it be next? Well, it might be stress. And I don't mean your stress, although of course with this plant hobby, you can trigger a few stressful moments. I totally get that. I'm talking about plant stress, because many plants actually don't like change, which I found really weird at the beginning of my plant collecting. But now I realize there are definitely plants out there that don't like change, some more than others, to be fair. For example, the fiddle leaf fig is known to not love change. The problem is, though, that sometimes it's not a big change that causes those yellow leaves. Even little changes can cause that kind of stressful reaction in your plant. Like maybe you've just repotted it and thought, great, beautiful, here's a fresh mix, here's a better pot, here's some watering, here's some fertilizer. You're welcome, little plant. But your plant's like, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this in your house. Like, I'm still used to the old one. Or maybe it just got rotated or moved from one shelf to another, or to a windowsill. Or even sneakily, sometimes it might be sitting a little bit closer to a heater, which is dry heat, and it just doesn't like it because it's used to getting cold at night, and then the heat kicks in and boom, now you've got warm air blasting directly at the leaves. It's just some kind of change that plant notices that doesn't like, and depending on what type of plant it is, your plant will go through stress and create some yellow leaves. It's stuff we don't think about because for us it feels so small, but for plants, sometimes they can just be so sensitive. They don't get to pack a suitcase, they don't get to mentally prepare that they're about to change. They just have to adjust on the spot. And you've just got to give them some time to do that. Sometimes that adjustment looks like a yellow leaf or two just dropping off, which is their way of saying, I'm recalibrating, give me a sec, I'll come back to you. And if that's happening, if you just moved the plant, if you've just repotted the plant, or you've done anything to change its little tiny world around it, then it's probably not something you need to fix. It's just a wait out moment. Give it a go in that new spot or in that new situation. Give it 2 to 3 weeks. It might drop a leaf or two and then it'll come back to you and it'll start growing new growth. Honestly, I do think most of us try to solve too early sometimes when the plant just needs a little bit of time to settle in. Now, if nothing's changed lately and yellowing still keeps showing up, well, the next place to check is down in the base. Check the roots. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky, obviously, because root issues aren't always visible right away. You can't see the root issues. Even if you've got a clear plastic plot around it, it's still sometimes really hard to see the roots. You can be watering it perfectly, giving it great light, doing all the things, but if your roots are either cramped or compacted or too soggy, they basically just can't do their job properly and it can't support that plant. For example, if the roots are all tangled and pressed up against the side of the pot and they can't take in water properly or even the nutrients properly, even if you're doing everything else right, that plant will start dropping leaves. And you're sitting there thinking, hold on, I just watered you. Why are you dropping leaves? Or, especially if it's root bound, if you've got too many roots in that pot, if it's been a long time in that same pot, for example, like maybe over 2 or 3 years, especially on the size of the pot, depending on the size of the pot. Or if the mix is broken down, gotten kind of dense and heavy and compacted, maybe it's wet like a brick or clay or solid soil, and it's not light and airy. The soil and the roots are the foundations of that plant, and it really makes a difference if those soils, as I said, they need to get oxygen, they need to stay healthy, they need to be thick and chunky, they are supporting the whole plant, and it's where it can grab all the water and nutrients from that soil. Honestly, as I've been learning about plants, I think one of the biggest things that really helped me was learning that it's okay to check the plant. You're okay to take the plant out of the pot and gently check the roots. You can just tip the plant out of its pot, have a little peek. It doesn't mean you have to repot it right away or do something big and dramatic. It's just like a bit of a check-in and go like, how are we doing down there kind of thing. And honestly, that's a really simple way to check if those roots are doing okay. And if the roots are circling the pot or if they're really, really packed wall to wall and you hardly see any dirt, then maybe it's time to size up to a next pot, go 2 inches bigger and give those roots a little room to breathe. Okay, we've gone through the list so far and you're still thinking to yourself, no, none of those things are a problem. So what's next that I have to check? Well, a bit of a deep breath here because some people don't like this one, but let's talk about pests. And look, I know the second you even say the word, some people's skin crawl and suddenly every plant looks like suspicious. Honestly, every plant I look at, I think has mealy sometimes, but that's not the case. But anyway, I think you just need to start realizing that pests are just a part of plant life, indoors or outdoors. They're annoying, yes, I get that, but it doesn't mean you're gross or careless or doing it all wrong. Sometimes they just show up. It does show up more often when that plant is not happy, when it's going through a little bit of a particular problem. When plants are not healthy, pests come in more. They realize there's a sort of half-stressed plant and they'll go, oh, yum, off I go. But technically, it's still not your fault. They can come from anywhere. Honestly, I've had plants in the corner of a room that's been off on its own. It's sat there for 6 months healthy. And then the next day I go and check it and it's got mealybugs. And I have no idea where they've come from, but they're there. Maybe they've been dormant for ages. Who knows? So honestly, don't stress yourself out if you do have pests. It's part of plant life. They exist across the world. They're there for a reason, for birds and things to eat them. Anyway, back to the yellow leaves part. The tricky part about this is sometimes pest issues look exactly like other problems. Yellow leaves, leaf drop and slow growth, they're super common symptoms for a few different things. But the good news is when it's pests, there's usually not only the yellow leaf, but there's something a little extra going on somewhere. So you've got to check up really close. Like you might see some tiny dots or tiny little speckles. You've got to look up close, especially if you need glasses like me. Might be weird little fluff. Looks like tiny, tiny little pieces of cotton fluff, like the tip of a cotton bud that's been left on the plant somewhere. That's mealybugs. Or maybe you might see some sticky residue on the leaf. It actually looks like water far away, but if you go up and you touch it, and instead of water you realize it's something sticky, then that's also pests. Unless, of course, you've spilt something on it, then that's, your spillage. But otherwise, if it's sticky residue, it could be like the sap coming out from the pest when it eats the plant. Honestly, that stickiness is a classic sign that there is a pest somewhere. Or if you see ants on your plant, the ants aren't doing any damage, but they are searching for that stickiness. So again, that's another sign that there is a pest in there somewhere. And that stickiness can be caused by several different pests as well. Could be from aphids, could be from scale, could be from mealies. Any kind of sap-sucking pest will leave that honeydew. So look for odd little extra symptoms to the yellow leaf or to the yellowing leaf and see if you can find some pests or signs of pests. And if you are not sure, look under the leaves and look where the leaf comes out of the stem, because they'll be hiding in that little crevice. They're really hard to spot, but they're more likely to be under the leaf or somewhere really hard to see. So check closely and check often. The other thing I haven't mentioned also, if you see tiny little webs, and sometimes they are really hard to see, that is probably spider mites. If you see white fluff, as I mentioned, that's mealybugs. Tiny black or yellow dots, probably thrips. And even if you're like, I don't know what I'm seeing, but it feels a little off, you're probably right. Oh, and here's something that I really wish I had known sooner, or just more people had told me when I was at the beginning of my plant collecting. Even after you treat pests the first time, the damage doesn't reverse overnight. So the leaf is already yellowing and stressful. It might just drop off, but make sure you treat that pest. It doesn't mean that the treatment didn't work. It just means that the plant needs time to recover and it'll drop the leaves that it can't recover from. It's kind of like after having a bad flu. You don't actually bounce back from it immediately, but you will bounce back after time. Now, if you don't see any bugs at all, amazing, cross that off your list. Very well done. Being preemptive, by the way, and wiping over your leaves with neem oil on a regular basis is much better than trying to be proactive and get rid of bugs. If you've got the time to do it, amazing. I definitely encourage doing that. But if you do find something, don't panic. Just isolate that plant as soon as you see it. Get your neem oil, get your insecticidal soap ready, and go into treatment mode. And maybe treat the plant next to it too, or just double check the plants around it, because let's be honest, pests don't really care about personal boundaries and they do like going from plant to plant. And yeah, it's gross and it's tedious and slightly rage inducing sometimes if you see it for the 5th time, but it is manageable. And that's the word there. It's manageable. But if you want to understand more about pests and how to treat them, I've actually got a whole guide or a whole 12-page booklet that is talking about how to get rid of bugs. It's my little booklet. It's called Bugs Be Gone, and it'll give you information on how to spot them and how to treat them. And it's all 10 top different pests in the household. So, aphids, mealybugs, fungus gnats, etc., etc. So go down in the description. It's a freebie. Download the freebie and keep it forever and ever to use and have a look at going forward. So we've talked about so far quite a lot of things, right? We've talked about natural leaf drop, 1 or 2 if it's a really, really old leaf. And then we went through watering and then lighting and then stress and then root check and then pests. But if you've gone through all of that, there is one final thing, and that is lack of nutrients can also cause yellowing leaves. But got to be honest with you, this is probably not the reason your plant's leaves are turning yellow. It's going to be 99% of the time one of the things we've already talked about. But it is possible and it does happen. It's just way less, I think, than most people think. A lot of people think if you see a yellow leaf, the first thing to think is nutrient deficiency. And that might be true, but I guarantee you 99% of the time is probably something else we've already talked about. But let's say you've just ruled out all of the other stuff that we've talked about, all the obvious stuff. Then yeah, okay, maybe we are looking at something to do with a nutrient thing. So here's the part that gets confusing. Different nutrient deficiencies show up in different ways. Some can affect new growth first, others show up on older leaves. Sometimes it's just a general yellowing. Other times you see veins stay green, but the other part of the leaf goes yellow and everything else starts to fade, which is weird and also kind of pretty sometimes. But if your plant's been in the same soil for a long time, like years, or if you've never really fertilized it, or maybe you've been using the same potting mix that drains like a dream but doesn't hold any nutrients, then yeah, it might be time to check if your plants need nutrients and feed your plant. And if you are going to fertilize, especially if you haven't done it for a long time, just keep it light. So use a half strength fertilizer. So if it tells you 5 mils on the back, only do 2 to 3 mils or maybe 75%. Don't use full strength, especially if you haven't fertilized for a long time. And make sure you get a balanced type of fertilizer. It'll either say it's a balanced fertilizer on the instructions, or look for something like a 10-10-10 or a 5-5-5 or even a 3-1-2 is fairly balanced. And if you're new to fertilizing, make sure you fertilize into soil that's still a tiny bit damp. So maybe it's only dried out 3/4 of the way down the pot. And this is because it's gentler on the roots than pouring nutrients into totally dry soil, because it could burn a little bit. Now look, I often dry out my soil completely, but I'm always using less mils than the instructions tell me. So again, I don't, go in with that hot heated fertilizer and burn the roots. But if you're nervous, slightly moist soil is just a little bit of a safer bet with a balanced half-strength fertilizer. And I feed it when the plant is growing. So if it's growing in summer and spring, which it normally does, that's great. But even if it's growing in winter, I will feed it then. If it's not growing, I'll try and come back a little bit on the fertilizer. No spreadsheets, no complicated schedule, just a simple rhythm of one on, one off. And I just think to myself, okay, I haven't fed you for a while. Let's give you a little bit of a snack. But again, if you're unsure, honestly, go back to the basics first. Check water, light, and drainage. That will solve more yellow leaf problems than nutrients ever will, I promise you. So yeah, yellow leaves, they can mean a lot of things, but ultimately, as I said, it's the result, it's the end product of your plant not being happy and letting go of one of that leaves. And I know it can mean a lot of things, and I know that's the annoying part, right? But don't worry, it happens to everyone, it happens to all plants. So yeah, yellow leaves is frustrating because most of the time we don't know where to start. It's not like you just look at your plant and think, oh yes, this must be a minor case of inconsistent humidity paired with some low nitrogen, with a touch of congestion in the roots. Like you don't know straight away looking at it. You just see the yellow leaf and think, why is this happening? What have I done? Kind of thing. And that could be sometimes the part that gets in the way of really enjoying your plant care, when it starts to feel like something you should know already, but you don't. Now, if you are in that situation, as you might have seen recently, I have introduced a new digital tool, and it's something called My Plant Buddy. If you're not quite sure where to start, you know something's going on, you think you should know it already, but you don't, then this tool is going to become extremely handy for you. It's a digital tool and it helps you figure out what your plant is actually trying to tell you. It bases its information on where you live, the kind of space and light you have, and even how confident you feel with plant care. It's simple, it's personal, it takes the pressure off, trying to guess what's wrong or feeling like you're doing it wrong. So if this video has helped you understand a little bit more about your plants and you want more support, then that is exactly made for you. You'll find the link to my digital tool called My Plant Buddy down below in the description. And if you can do me a favor, if you did find this helpful, hit that like button so more plant lovers can find it too, because I know there are a lot of people out there with questions on yellow leaves, and I'd really love to help them understand the issues. And if yellow leaves weren't your issue, but your plant's got brown tips, weird curling, or something a little bit more mysterious like little spots that have come out of nowhere, then you might want to subscribe, because there's another video coming out soon too. So keep your eye on it. And if you haven't subscribed already, just press that little button down below. I promise we will decode the rest of that leaf drama together in another video. But for now, if you want to continue on understanding your plant's journey, then I'm going to leave you here with that video about understanding the signs that your plants are giving you when it doesn't have enough light. So I'm going to leave that video right here. Go watch that one next. As always, thanks for joining me. I will see you in the next one over here, bringing you leaves, love, and laughter. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.